So, what is the afterlife like? If you go onto YouTube and you watch some people's near-death experiences that they've uploaded into their channel, you'll begin to hear a lot of different stories. And you'll not see a lot of similarities among them at first. But then after you start watching 10, 20, 30, 40 of them, you begin to realize, wait, there's some certain principles that are always true about these people's stories. And that's what I want to give you in this video. I want to give you a description of the afterlife and the themes that appear in people's near-death testimonies. And it's very interesting. It's an exciting place. There's a lot of fantastic descriptions that people have. And what that's telling us about the afterlife is really worth discovering and knowing and looking forward to. So I'm hoping that you'll really enjoy this video and have a lot to think about afterwards. I can't reference individual videos. I'm just taking them all in and describing what you see in these videos. If you're part of the near-death experience community and you've been an experiencer yourself, then you'll recognize these truths are just part of what people's stories sound like. If somebody is trying to make something up, it becomes pretty obvious that they're grasping and don't really have an idea of what they're describing, because the people that really have had an experience will all describe similar phenomena that really follow some rules, some spiritual laws that seem to be always true in the next life. Now, one thing I discovered is you cannot think about the next life using your earthly mind. You have to completely try on a different way of looking at things. This is another realm. It's very different from here, and it doesn't follow what we would understand here. For instance, there is no where, there is no when, there is no what. Just imagine trying to describe something where there is no physical object that exists. There is no specific place that exists. There is no specific time period that something happened. It is a very dreamlike state. I'd almost describe it as holographic. It's like people communicate very differently up there. You can't come back to this world and say, oh, I definitely saw this in this location. There isn't a location. There isn't a time when this existed. There isn't even a what that this was. People very much in a dreamlike state see and experience and describe realities that they are in, but no two people will describe the same reality. And it doesn't seem to be fixed up there. There is no specific fixed place, time, or thing. So you have to get that whole idea out of your head. Now, this answers a lot of interesting arguments that we have down here of, is there a place called hell? Well, there is no places in heaven. Is there a big lake of fire that people get thrown into when they are in, disfavor with God? Well, that's an interesting question. We don't really see a lake of fire in these people's testimonies. We don't really see a place like that. Nobody describes the same thing. Everybody's describing something that's unique to them. As several near-death experiencers have said, the place is highly idiosyncratic, which means it's true specifically to the person, and it is very much based on who they are, and it has very little to be based on what other people are also seeing or feeling. If you can hear that I'm trying to describe different realities, and it's difficult to do because you can't do it just based on what we're so used to using down here. Okay, let's say that you are on an operating table and you die and you pop out of your body. Well, the first thing that you experience is deep empathy. You can feel everybody's hearts in the room. You know what their intentions are. You can feel what they're wanting to do with you and saving you. You can feel their urgency with trying to bring you back to life because they're aware you just stopped breathing or your heart just stopped pumping. And so you begin, your senses expand and you're now empathically connected to people. You can hear their thoughts. You know what they're thinking. You know what they're intending. And you can do it all at once with everybody in the room. It's quite amazing. You look at your body and you begin to discover that there's this thing there that's called your physical body, and you become aware that that's what you used to live in. But you have no feelings for it. There's no affection for it. It's just this, it's like an old sock that you pulled off and you just left it in the dirty clothes pile. People do not describe their body with any fond memories. They're pretty much turned off by it, and they want nothing to do with it. And that is kind of starts to generalize onto the earth plane. The whole of the earth and all of the things that were on the earth begins to fade, and they start to lose interest in it. And the memory of Earth itself fades kind of quickly. People remember who they are and they remember what they experienced, but what they actually, their interest in the planet and what was happening on it starts to leave quickly. And they get disinterested. They start to float out the window. They start to look for the light. They see something interesting and they start moving towards it. And then their capacities really increase. They get a huge upgrade. I'll talk about that in a moment. What you are in the next life, as far as the physical form you are, is most people describe themselves as pure consciousness, as what those who see the being of light, which I will describe in 2 videos from now. The being of light is just this huge white ball of light that is immensely powerful and infinitely powerful, as some people would describe. And they themselves notice that they're made of the same stuff. They're a small ball of light. And some people do describe themselves having a physical form. They see like arms and legs, and they can't see their head, but they believe that they have a head. They can oftentimes see 360. People describe having awareness and vision in all the entire area around there. There is no behind, there is no forward. They see everything where they are. So they're just this ball of consciousness, a ball of light. Some people say that they themselves realized they were emanating light, just like the being of light had light. Those who see their relatives that are in a human form, they talk about their relatives as being middle-aged, like at the prime of their perfect physical form. They have no blemishes. They have their sight restored if they were blind. They have no missing limbs. Their body is in the perfect, pristine state that it would have been here on Earth. Middle age, generally. Some people are younger, some people are older. They sort of describe that their bodies, their physical bodies, evolve in time, that they've been in the afterlife, that they get more beautiful, that they get more lovely, that they get more, their appearance appears more radiant, the more loving and mature they become. The longer they've been there, they seem to become even more beautiful over time. That their inside, that the goodness of their heart starts to manifest itself in more pleasant ways and more attractive ways. But everybody that sees their relatives up there describes them as being at the height of their physical perfection if they were still in their body on the earth. But it's a spiritual body. It's not related at all to the physical body, but it does have the appearance of such. So much so that they can come back to this planet and they can describe who their grandfather was or their great-grandmother was just in a photograph. People oftentimes put photographs in front of somebody who's gone into the next life, and they can identify their dead relatives that they've never seen before just based on what they saw they looked like in the next life. There are also a whole bunch of beings that you meet up there, races and kinds of beings. Many of them human-like, many of them appear as angels or as really highly exalted angels that are not. Angels themselves seem to be clothed a lot of the times in white. Some appear as humans, sometimes they don't appear as human. There are many beings of light up there. Many of them translucent, many of them emanating just incredible rainbows of color, some that are just breathtaking when you see them or people trying to describe them. They seem to have different orders to them depending on how much love they can reflect and share and how unconditionally loving they are. So it's like a whole range of beings. They're kind, they're loving, they're very pleasant to be around. They're not scary, they're not against you in any way. The people that you meet up there seem to be from this planet, but there are also some that don't seem to be from this planet. In fact, many experiencers have asked, are there other beings from other planets and other worlds? And the answer does seem to come back yes. They do seem to get descriptions of those planets. They seem to have awarenesses of them. They don't remember that much when they come back, but they do seem to describe meeting and and talking to beings that they don't know exactly where they're from. Some do seem to be from here, others seem to be from other places. All those places that they come from, other planets, do seem to be located in this universe that we currently live in. I don't want to be dogmatic about any of this, but I just want to be open to the possibility that you're meeting a lot of people that kind of belong to this world of spirits that is a lot like the Galactic Empire in the movie Star Wars, or one of those science fiction movies where you meet where you all go to this, this capital city, and there are people from all other planets and other places. They all seem to have originated, though, from planets and have had a human-like existence, though. So there seems to be some grounding in human-likeness. They don't get too far away from that. But again, these are just suppositions, and not everybody comes back and describes this like that. Mostly only people who showed an interest in asking those questions. Okay, let's come back to who we are. You get a massive upgrade in your ability to perceive, to know, to think. There's one guy who described when he was a teenager, what he thought God was like. And when he died and became a being in the afterlife, he said that I was a lot like what I thought God was like. I was immense. I was powerful. I had incredible freedom. I had incredible insight, knowledge, and wisdom. It was just amazing. But what's interesting is he said, even though I was that big and immense, I was aware at the same time that God saw me as this little baby that he was holding in his hands. And God said to me, as big as you think you are, I am that much more immensely bigger than you. So that gives us a lot of freedom to say that we are going to grow in our capacities to see, to know, to understand immensely. But that doesn't mean we're godlike. It means that God is that much bigger than us. And that means that there is no way you can even describe him in words adequately. He is completely beyond anything imaginable. We can still have a relationship with him, though. Okay, let's go on to the light. It's very interesting that the light that is emanated by the being of light pervades all of heaven and earth. There is, even in the deepest hells, there is light that is still shining into those places. And so you have the spectrum, as I've described before, of light being kind of like the backdrop of heaven. And we ourselves radiate some light, but mostly we are reflecting light, people describe. And everything up there is reflecting light, and it's also emanating light. So that is sort of like the hallmark of the afterlife, is there's a lot of light up there. But what's interesting about this light is it is revealing what is unknown. It is making what is hidden visible. It is making what is in the darkness bright, bringing it out into the light. And so the experience of the afterlife is the experience of being known. Now this is biblical, of course, interestingly enough. There's verses in 1 Corinthians 13 that talk about being fully known and knowing fully, even as we are fully known, about being seen and being able to see fully. There's Jesus talked about how things that are whispered in the inner rooms will be shouted from the rooftops. That things that are hidden will be revealed. In fact, he goes on to say nothing that is hidden will stay hidden. It will all be revealed. And what's interesting about that is there's part of the judgment is in that sentence, because people have different degrees of how much light they want to be in up there, and you have the ability to choose how much light you want to be in. If you want to be in the brightest places, all of you is fully known and visible. If you want to hide and stay in darker places, then you can do that, but you don't get to be known as much. And so there seems to be some gradient that you can pick that is comfortable for how much light you can take. Okay, now we're going to talk about the primacy of knowledge. The ability to see and to know is huge up there. It's not like here where you can barely grasp certain subject matter and you have to really focus on it before you really know that subject. Up there, knowledge is everywhere. I mean, it's like, it seems like it's omniscient. We don't really get to see all and know all at once, but we can see and know a subject at once up there. Or a person, you can just absorb all there is to know about a person or a life or a particular experience or a particular topic. You can just put your mind and apply your mind on a particular topic, and it all becomes knowable. And what's interesting about that is we're really ultimately describing the internet. Believe it or not, the closest thing to describing the afterlife and how knowledge works up there is one massive internet, and everybody can tap into it. In order to request a file, if you will, all you have to do is ask the question, and somebody else in the connected world of the afterlife here's what you're questioning, and they give you the answer. They send you over the file, but what's interesting is the file itself is experience. They will send you over how they experienced that, or everything they've discovered or learned or accomplished in that particular area of expertise. It just gets added to your knowledge from their knowledge. And so the internet of heaven, if you will, is sharing people's experiences. It's giving you downloads of their knowledge and talents and subject matter that they've mastered. All you have to do is ask the question. All you have to do is show an interest in a particular topic, and immediately people describe all the answers being poured into their head, and they can comprehend it in immense amounts of knowledge at once. So it kind of makes the whole study that we put into knowing things down here kind of null and void up there, because everybody has knowledge. It's just simple as just wanting to know something. Knowledge is given to you. It's like you're swimming in a sea of knowledge. As soon as you want to know something, all you have to do is be interested in it, and it's given to you. And people's capacities to comprehend and to remember and to know and to think about things is just huge. It's like the internet here on steroids. I find that really encouraging, of course, because I have learned a lot from the internet. Communication is thought to thought. It's telepathy. People hear each other's thoughts. They feel each other's intentions. If you want to describe something to somebody, you put pictures in their mind, and both of you can describe and repaint the picture as if you are describing a scene visually. So communication is on steroids there. It's not like here where you can barely get ideas across without thousands of words. You just use thoughts, and you do it with images and sound and deep ways of understanding, and you co-create. There's this idea of co-creating experiences together with somebody. So communication is deeply rich, and it's very powerful. It's not at all encumbered by the limitations we have down here. It's instantaneous, and what's interesting is when people are standing in front of the being of light, which is God, if they don't know any better, they try and lie, as in deceive, or answer, or hold back half-truths and be somewhat deceitful to the being of light. And what's interesting is the being of light is listening to their thoughts and reveals their deception before they even have the ability to even form those words. And so they just give up. They're like, okay, you obviously know me, and I can't hide anything from you. And so they give up. They discover that lying and trying to be deceitful and trying to hide half-truths or not come forth with the full truth is pointless, because the being of light is revealing to you your deception as you're trying to be deceptive. And so you just give up. You're just like, okay, I have to be honest with you. And then there's a lot more freedom to express. And then people can even joke back and forth with the being of light. There's a lot of laughter. There's a lot of humor that's involved. The being of light, can listen in on our thoughts and comment kind of like, and share his joy and delight and how funny things are to him. And we see his humor too. So it's funny to both of us. Okay, let's go on and describe how the God, I think himself, I'll get to this when we talk more about the being of light, but God himself is I think the basis for that internet of experiences up there, and each of us are connected to that, and that's how we share our experiences with each other. Okay, let's continue with, there is instant identification. People don't need to ever ask, who are you? And you never need to tell them who you are. When the person shows up, even if you've never heard their name, didn't know who they were, you immediately know who they are. It's like it's like who they are when they are appearing to you is instantly known to you. There's instant identification. It's like how computers in this earth plane identify themselves with, IP addresses. If you're a computer person, you know what that is. Up there, you instantly identify yourself with your name and your history and who you are and what you've done. And so people are aware of your choices and your reputation and who you are really quickly. It's easily perceived. It's not like you can hide things up there. There are a lot of atheists and people that died never hearing of who Jesus was that are approached by Jesus, and they instantly know who he is. They know his story, they know his name, they know who he is and what he represents, and they can come back and describe that because they've met him, even though they had no knowledge of who he was on earth. Okay, I think I've covered... language is universal. There is no miscommunication because we don't understand each other. Everybody speaks in concepts and intentions with the great, and they can understand themselves regardless of what language they spoke. Language becomes meaningless. Everybody speaks a universal language. And it doesn't matter what planet you're from, what age or eon or epoch you're from, you're all in this one big melting pot and you can share a common language. I find that interesting too. Nobody has problems understanding what other people are saying. Okay, now I'm going to go through specific things that really show up. If you've not heard me say it already, it's this word experience shows up a lot. The primacy of experience. When people share, they share what they experienced. And it's very amazing how our experiences really do determine who we are up there.